don't know. Do I stand up here? Do I stand down there? I don't know. What's that? Put that away. There's no evidence of this. So most of the gathering, a lot of the gathering, I should say, are on their way to a Wesleyan invasion of, is it Norfolk? So we can expect some wild and crazy videos online later this week from them, I'm sure. Yep. Not sure how hard the Wesleyans party, but it's a good Christian party, good God-fearing, loving party, so it'll be fun. So my name's Ron, and new to the gathering, and I made the, I don't want to say mistake, but the comment to Pastor Mel, if there's anything I can do to help out, just let me know. Well, I was walking one Sunday to get coffee, and she goes, "Oh, there's Ron. Hey, can you preach?" I was like, "No, I'm out of town." This first answer right away, "No, I'm sorry, I'm out of town." And I was like, "No, yeah, I'll be more glad to do it." But crazy nervous, so just God can still use my bumblings and my stammerings and my wild goose change with "there's a squirrel" kind of statement things. But hopefully you'll hear the heart of the message and the heart of God through what I say. And my thing is I was praying on what to kind of talk about today, what kind of preach on. And see, with my anxiety level and my self-esteem issue, I don't want to call myself a preacher. I don't want to say I'm up here preaching, I'm up here teaching, just because I don't feel worthy of being up here, worthy of standing behind here and sharing God's word with you. But the thing is, God has made us all worthy, and God can use us all to do this. And I promise you, if He can use me to get up here and do anything, He can do much, much more with each and every one of you. And if that doesn't make sense, it's your fault. Only kidding. But we're going to camp out John 6, verses 1 through 13. And I was going to have my wife read that.
Read and record
at the same time? Well, I, for some reason, didn't bring my Bible, and my phone's sitting on a chair behind you.
So it's John what?
Hold on. What is it?
Oh, he's got a bell, yeah. It's John 6. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Close my Facebook app there. Sent Pastor Mel a picture of inspiration.
So,
What was it, John 6 what?
John 6, verse 1, and going all the way to 13. And it's basically where Jesus feeds the 5,000. And starting here on verse 1, sometime after this, Jesus crossed over to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. It was also called the Sea of Tiberias. A large crowd followed him. They had seen the signs he had done by healing the sick people. Then Jesus went on a mountainside. There he sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover feast was near. Jesus looked up and saw the large crowd coming towards him. So he said, "Philip, where can we buy bread for these people to eat?" Jesus asked this only to test Philip. He already knew what he was going to do. Philip answered him, "Suppose we were able to buy enough bread for each person to just have a bite. That would take more than half a year's pay." Another of his disciples spoke up. It was Andrew, Simon Peter's brother. That's a lot of words there. He said, "Here's a boy with 5 small loaves of barley bread, and he also has 2 small fish. But how far will that go in such a large crowd?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." There was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. It was 5,000 men were there. And that doesn't include, of course, the women and children. Then Jesus took the loaves and gave thanks. He handed out the bread to those who were seated. He gave them as much as they wanted, and he did the same with the fish. When all of them had enough to eat, Jesus spoke to his disciples. "Gather the leftover pieces," he said. "Don't waste anything." So they gathered what was left over from the 5 barley loaves, and it filled 12 baskets with the pieces left by those who had eaten. So, I mean, I know that's a pretty common story. A lot of preachers, a lot of teachers will go to this and talk about it, and God will provide. So I just kind of want to take a little different look at these and just kind of how it spoke to me. So in verses 5 and 6, Jesus asked the question to Philip. He saw the large crowd and he asked them, "So where can we buy the bread?" to feed these people? Jesus knowing the answer, what he was going to go ahead and do. And we get two answers. We get one answer from Philip, be like, suppose there was enough bread, or suppose we had the money to go buy the bread for all these people. It's more than we have. It's more than we would ever have. Even if we could, we would not have enough. Even if we couldn't, you know. So whenever I say you know, that means just kind of backtrack, just kind of hit the little started button there. So Philip, his answer, he looked at the situation and what the cost would be. When we get to Andrew, Andrew says, here's a boy with 5 loaves of barley and 2 small fish. What's that going to do with this crowd? And he looked at what our, I can't read my own writing, so I'm just going to go away from my notes. So he looked at it like, okay, well, we have this, but we're going to need this to accomplish that. And Jesus was like, give me what you have, and we'll accomplish it. So I want to talk about the boy for a second, with the main thing here. What if that boy had decided to hide his bread and fish? What if that boy thought to himself, well, I carried the fish, I brought the bread, I was prepared for this trip, I did everything right. Why should I give up my provisions? Why should I give up my fish? Why should I give up my bread? And then not only that, if I did give up my stuff, if I did do this or say that or do that, it's not going to be enough. Look at the situation. Look how many people are here. My little fish and my 5 loaves aren't going to do anything. Gratefully, he did not do that. And Jesus was able to take what little bit he had and turn it into something greater. What if the boy looked at what he had to offer and was embarrassed that it was not enough? Kind of like, and let me just put it in this situation right here. What if Pastor Mel asked me to come speak, and I look at what God's given me and I say, that's not enough. I don't have enough to get in front of people to preach the gospel. I don't have enough to talk about the love of Jesus. I don't have enough of a testimony to share what God can do in someone's life. Luckily, the boy didn't do that either. What he did is he gave up the fish and the loaves. For me, when we go back to the first part of my what if questions, what if he said, this is my fish, that's their problem? That's kind of how I used to look at addiction. And it's so unique, and this is how great God works, is put me in a church-like gathering where they don't tiptoe around, well, anything, but especially the addiction. They go, they head first, love first, straight into it. And I grew up with an alcoholic stepdad that he ended up taking his own life after he kind of lost everything due to alcoholism. And I, growing up with that, I was always scared of, the triggers of what would cause him to go and drink more, and then the stuff that would come after. And so I always had a hardened heart for anyone that had issues with drugs or alcohol, because I was always like, well, they shouldn't have picked that up. They shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't have done that. That's not my problem. Why am I going to spend an ounce of time worried about that, being concerned with that? Which is definitely not the right thing. So don't think that here. God's opened my heart and has given me the compassion to start realizing and start learning and asking questions. Because even to this day, when I go to the gathering over there on the other side, I don't even know what address that is. I hear a little voice in my head is like, be careful what you say, because you don't want to trigger someone. You don't want to set something off. You don't want to open your mouth and mess up someone's life, mess up someone's path. So that's where I got to stop looking at myself and realize that God is God. And he can take care of everything. He can take my words and fix them and make them make sense. He can take them and turn them into seeds. And it's about the opening up the heart and the eyes and just showing the love and say, listen, I haven't been where you've been, but I'm here just to hug on you and help you in any way I can and learn and just be patient. But that's kind of what I took away from the fishes and loaves. And then, okay, so that was the part where a little bit of that testimony. my thing is God's given each of us something. It may not be fishes, it may not be loaves, but it could be an ability to listen, an ability to lead, an ability to follow, which we go, an ability to love when it doesn't make sense. And he's given you a little bit of it. But if you give that little bit of patience back to God, give a little bit of that love back to God, he can turn it into something amazing. He can turn it into so much more, to where not only do you now have enough love to love yourself, you can also love your neighbor. And then not only are you going to love your neighbor, you're going to love your enemies too. And then you're going to have so much love to give out that if we go and collect it, there's going to be plenty of baskets full of your love. Now do that with all the fruits of the spirits. Do that with the joy, the peace, the long-suffering. And then at the top of that, what I call the food pyramid of the fruits of the Spirit, and on top of that is self-control. And that's something I think, I know I can struggle with it. My kids are sitting in the back there staring at me, know that I can go mad at them and lose my control with them and say naughty things that I have to apologize to them and apologize to God for. Just being real, standing up here, you know, I'm a flawed person that serves a flawless God. So, you know, here we go. And what a great place to be where we're here and we can learn off each other, bounce that off of each other, and really show my insecurities. And being up here and stammering on and just keep going is just, it's for me to read 13 chapters in front of a group of people is a good testament to what God can do, because I hate reading in front of people. You already saw that I tried to pawn it off on my wife. She wasn't very submissive, and we'll talk about that, you know, so we can pray on that. But I'm up here, so she can't hurt me now. But I hope what I'm getting at, kind of driving that home, is whatever God's given you in your heart, share it. Give it back to God. Say, God, here I am, send me. God, here I am, let me. God, here I am, let me help, you know, support with prayer, support with volunteering, showing up, loving. So that, you know, there's a plant going on in Bel Air. Pray for that. There's a plant going somewhere on Elsa, I'm sure there is. She's on her way down there. They'll probably give her 6 more locations. I don't know. But I did call the one in Hawaii. That's the church that I will help out at the most. Why are you looking at me? I'll take you probably.
How long is it going to take you to drive over it?
I have to get a really fast start and hit that Golden Gate Bridge really fast. Is that near the ocean now? And then I'm just going to go back to my note here. We need to be the boy with the fish and the bread. What we see as not enough, God sees as the answer to someone else's prayer. What God has given us is more than enough, and if we trust Him with the promise, He will make them more than enough, or He will make them more than enough. So if we trust God with our provisions, He will make them more than enough. Anyways, so basically, when you doubt yourself, just kind of go back to today's thing and say, just look at this guy up here that's just stammering and all over the place, and realize, hey, he did it anyways, because God is God. Which is a really easy sermon. I can just go, man, God's God, so have a great day. But what does that mean? I don't know what it means. Ask Pastor Mel when she gets back. Quit looking at me. But I do want to say, and just kind of share from my heart, and with my notes there, is I feel constantly inadequate. I feel constantly, when I'm in a conversation with something, the voices in my head are saying they would rather be talking to someone. I constantly hear, and you know, internally, you'll never be good enough. You'll never amount. You're part of the problem. And what I'm here to say is, no, you're part of the solution. You give your heart, you give your everything to Jesus, and that's, you know, such a cliche. But what does that mean? That give your essence to Jesus. Give your very breath to Jesus. What I say to people when I go to work, just by them looking at me and seeing how I live, says more about Him and our relationship than what I can say up here. So when we're out there in the battlefield, and in here in the battlefield, be that example to Jesus. I believe they mentioned this morning, you may be the only Bible someone sees. And that's scary, Because look at us. I mean, what translation is this? It's probably the Message or something. We do keep that in mind and allow yourself to make mistakes, but more importantly, let God lift you up from those mistakes. Today, you know, I'm gonna keep on going, keep on trying, and if I'm asked to preach again, I'll do it. I usually have like PowerPoints and all these extra tools and all this stuff, and today I was just like, no, I'm just gonna be real. I listened on our way back from North Carolina. I listened to Pastor Mel's message from the previous week, and then that's where I came up with, you know, just kind of talk how the little boy gave his bread and his fish. And I'm sure they weren't going to take it from him. They weren't going to steal it, so he had to give it up. And he gave it up knowing that it wasn't enough and that it was his. And so let's do that. Let's do that with our lives. It's mine. It's not enough, but I'm going to give it. And that's what I ask for you today. I don't know about you, but that was a pretty cool closing. Let me pray, and then I'll turn it over to some people that